Hello everybody and welcome to a Train Simulator 2015 video. Today we shall be driving a Class 47 diesel locomotive from Dumfries to Carlisle on the up boat train scenario in West Coast Mainline over Shap. Initially I was going to do a journey in a Class 156 Sprinter, however the Class 156 is currently broken. There is a major bug in it that will cause the game to crash when you open the doors. I've read on the UK train sim forums that others have been suffering from similar problems, so this certainly isn't an isolated issue. All this seemed to occur after the release of TS 2015, whereas the models seemed to work fine in previous versions. The 156 was released during the Railworks era, though the train has not had any form of update since its release, so aesthetically it's not up to the TSX engine standard. Hopefully Dovetail Games can sort something out, but because the rights of the 156 belong to OVE Entertainment, support for this piece of DLC is their responsibility, which they have seemed to have silently abolished. Unless anything happens in the meantime, I strongly recommend that you do not purchase the Class 156 if you have not already done so. In the cab of the Class 47 we need to firstly let the passengers on, so we need to open the doors by pressing T. Next we will press W to put the train into forward gear, and finally we need to turn on the headlights by pressing H. Now that we are ready to depart, we need to release the brakes, and on this particular Class 47, which is an upgraded model introduced with this route, is that you have to charge the brakes up so that they release quicker. So all you simply have to do is to hold down longer on the colon key, and when you get a readout of minus 20% on the HUD, you can release the button and the brakes will release. The starting speed limit is 30 miles per hour. The speed limit now increases to 45 miles per hour, with a further increase to 70 shortly after the signal box. The Class 47 has separate braking and power controls. A and D control acceleration and deceleration. The AT and colon keys control the train brake, which applies braking to the entire train, whilst the bracket keys control the locomotive brake. As we approach the whistle board, we need to sound the horn by pressing the space bar. speed limit is now 80 miles per hour. Class 47s were constructed by Brush Traction at Crewe Works and Falcon Works in Loughborough between 1962 and 1968, making them the most numerous class of British mainline diesel locomotive. They were fitted with a Sulzer 12LD A28C twin-bank 12-cylinder unit producing 2,750 brake horsepower, but this was later derated to 2,580 brake horsepower to improve reliability. They have been used on both passenger and freight trains on Britain's railways for over 53 years, despite the introduction of more modern types of traction. As of July 2015, 82 locomotives still exist as Class 47s, with further examples having been converted to other classes, 30 of which retain operational status on the main line. 310 units were constructed at Loughborough, with the remaining 202 at Crewe. By 1986, only 5 of the original 512 locomotives had been withdrawn from service, all because of serious accident damage. However, with work for the class declining due to the introduction of new rolling stock and spare parts becoming difficult to source, some inroads started being made. The first locomotives to be targeted were the non-standard pilot batch of 20, now numbered 47401 to 47420. 3 locomotives were withdrawn as life expired in February 1986, and the remainder of the batch that had not recently been overhauled followed in the next 2 years. All 20 were withdrawn by 1992. We are now approaching our only intermediate stop at an inn, and we cross the river of the same name. The station is approximately 27.5 miles northwest of Carlisle. Until the early 1980s, the goods yard at an inn was in regular use, and the station used to be the dispatch point of fresh fish to London. An inn was also once a railhead for the now closed line to Cochrane's boiler plant in Newby. Another Class 47 clears the single line section ahead. Departing Annin, the speed limit is 50 miles per hour. BR drew up a hit list of locomotives for early withdrawal, mainly including those with non-standard electrical equipment, known as the series parallel locomotives. In the outset, withdrawals were slow, mainly due to the surplus of spare parts and new flows of freight traffic which required extra locomotives. Only 61 locomotives had been withdrawn by the end of 1992. However, with the introduction of new locomotives, the rate of withdrawal quickly rose, with 86 more 47s reaching the end of their lives in the next 3 years. With most of the non-standard locomotives withdrawn, the reduction of the fleet again proceeded more slowly. The privatisation of British Rail also produced new independent rail companies needing available traction until they could order new locomotives. From 1996 to 2006, an average of around 15 locomotives per year were taken out of service. During the decline in passenger work, a number of locomotives were painted in celebrity colours, depicting various liveries that the type had carried during its brief history. This continued a tradition of painting 47s in unusual colours, which dates back to 1977, when Stratford Depot in East London painted 2 locomotives with huge Union flags to celebrate the Silver Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. get an advance warning for an upcoming 40 miles an hour speed restriction. Because I haven't played this scenario in a while, I wasn't sure whether a warning board would be in place, and in certain instances temporary speed drops don't always show on the HUD, so it can take you by surprise when you suddenly lose a large amount of points for speeding in career scenarios. line speed now drops back down to 40 miles an hour as we join the West Coast Main Line at Gretna Junction, with West Coast Main Line over Shap being depicted in the mid-1980s. Gretna Green Station is closed, but in the real world the station reopened in 1993 with just one platform, the second being added in August 2008 when the double track was restored back to an inn. The speed limit is now 100 miles an hour. Depending on the type, the Class 47 has varying top speeds of either 75 or 95 miles an hour. We passed a pair of Class 87 electric locomotives with a larger assortment of container wagons being looped for an upcoming intercity express from London to Glasgow to overtake. The Class 87s were constructed by Brell at Crewe between 1973 and 1975. on the right is Kingmore Depot. Here is an example of just how unfair the scoring in career scenarios can be, as we lose an extortionate amount of points by speeding for just a split second. Our train terminates in platform 1. Carlisle, or Carlisle Citadel as it's known more formally, serves a variety of destinations from Glasgow and Edinburgh in the north to Settle, Leeds, Barrow, Lancaster, Preston, Wigan, Warrington and London Euston in the south. This scenario isn't yet over for us, as we now need to uncouple our train and reverse onto the adjacent loop, where a Class 87 will take over the rest of the train's journey to London. We now change ends, and in order to finish we need to press Control and Tab at the same time to get permission to pass the signal at danger. We have now reached the end of this scenario, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and take care.